Hello, and welcome to today's Saratech Enablement Series. My name is Sarah Utsugi, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator at Saratech, and I'll be your host today. Presenting today, we have Dion Carroll, who's a PLM consultant at Saratech, and she'll be talking to you about using CAD translators for effective collaboration in Teamcenter. All right, so hi, Dion. Thanks for taking time to join us today.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you kindly, and thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Just to give you folks a little bit about myself, I'm Dion Carroll, an application engineer and PLM consultant with Saratech. I have been with this company for about a year, coming up in June, but I've been within this role for over 2 years, coming on via an acquisition. My educational background is within multidisciplinary engineering, design, and as well as product lifecycle management, or as we like to refer to it as PLM. But previously, I've worked for engineering service providers, leading design, quality, and supply chain management teams, as well as being a user of the Siemens software suites and other CAD software and digital manufacturing tools.
Great. Well, we're excited to hear what you have to share with us today. So yeah, go ahead and share your agenda and take it away.
Thank you kindly. All right, so today we're going to be discussing translators within Teamcenter. First, we'll get into why we use translators and what these translators actually are. And then we'll discuss the different types of translators available within Teamcenter. Next, we'll talk about translating files from the context of the Teamcenter rich client menu, as well as within the automated context of a workflow. Then before we get into a brief demonstration, we'll discuss how to enable and set these translators up for our business practices. And again, as mentioned, we'll see a quick demonstration, then wrap up with some reference and support information, as well as some additional questions. All right, so why do we use these translators? Well, we use translators in order to view, modify, markup, and share usable data sets within our platform without our end users needing the original software used in order to create the information being shared. So, for example, if I create a drawing within a CAD system, without such translation, whoever I'm sharing my drawing with must have a tool capable of reading the drawing CAD file. And this is generally the same or another CAD tool requiring at least the access to a license of said CAD system. So we know that not all of our managers, our checkers, or reviewers have access to our CAD licenses. And honestly, at times, not all of our CAD users will have access to all of our licenses. So utilizing the translation features within Teamcenter, I can easily develop a PDF while working within the context of my PLM system, keeping up with revision controls and things of that nature, as well as giving all of my necessary users viewable and markup access within the system. And I'm not just talking about, 2D drawings or CGMs. However, this allows us to use and view the latest working representation of our CAD files within the PLM platform, not needing to fire up our CAD programs, and accessing these sometimes as easy as throwing a URL into a Chrome browser. So overall, we're able to really save time and money by being strategic with our license allotment, as well as our software costs and deployment time, but still being able to carry out our necessary business processes with best practice. So let's get into a little bit about translators. Well, the Teamcenter translators give us the ability, as mentioned, to convert multiple data set types into other formats within the system, such as PDFs, 2D images, lightweight JT files. And we can run these translations manually, or we can implement them within workflows that can carry out the translations for us automatically upon our business needs. Additionally, generally speaking, when we are working with any of our many CAD systems within Teams, with any of our many CAD systems that integrate within Teamcenter, there is the need to configure the translator within the Teamcenter side as well as the CAD software side. So in some cases, your administration team may need access to not only your server machines to configure the translations, but also your client machines in order to carry out the necessary deployments. So just be aware of that when initiating these for your own groups and businesses. So some of the types of translators that we see. Here we show a bit of a list of translation tools that we have available within Teamcenter, though this is not exhaustive. So if you don't see your native software or dataset types listed, please feel free to ask within the chat or contact us with a list of your own software so that we can make sure we're verifying the capability of the translators. So we can see here, we have some of the NX to PV Direct, NX to CMG, NX Translation Direct. It's going to allow us to translate our UG files, our NX files into JT lightweight files. I'll discuss those a little bit further later on, as well as CGMs, our 2D files, as well as PDFs and things of that nature. We also see listed over on the right some of our other JT translators that can be integrated side by side with our third-party CAD products. So the SolidWorks products can be translated. We have Creo translators, CATIA, things of that nature. So we have a lot of, we have the accesses to many different types of translators. So please feel free to verify the capabilities of your warranted data set. So let's get into some walkthrough examples before we really jump into our live demonstration. But we're gonna discuss this quick example here. If I want to translate my NX data set, you see we have a UG part here. I can translate it and generate the lightweight JT file that I had mentioned previously. Now, Teamcenter has the capability of visualizing and manipulating this lightweight JT file within its platform. And basically what we're going to do is pretty much duplicate the representation from NX into this lightweight file that I can visualize within Teamcenter. So while I have selected, highlighted, or in some cases within Teamcenter, we like to call it standing on. But as I'm standing on this UG part, I can translate it and generate that lightweight JT file that I can view within Teamcenter, and not only just view it within Teamcenter, but also share that outside of my platform as needed. So other individuals that I need to relate this information to, they don't need to, again, fire up those CAD platforms. They can just throw this within a viewer that's going to be a lot more easily accessible to them. So this is going to make things really easy within Teamcenter because you can see the parts and the assemblies as well as manipulate them to some degree for the information necessary. So you can take section views, you can take measurements and queries and measure surface areas if warranted. So we can additionally take snapshots and create markups so that we can comment and pass along that information to further participate in change orders, any sort of review processes, or really however our business sees fit. So let's get into the examples of translation within the rich client on the translation menu. So this is the quick and dirty on translation once the administration has set this availability up. So this manual translation capability is only available within the rich client. Don't worry, active workspace or other interface users, we will get to your capabilities in just a jiff. However, we can select Translate to initiate a translation, though, again, we must be standing on, have selected or highlighted our warranted data set, not the item and not the item revision. So just remember that. And we can also view the status and progress of our translations within the administrator console. So what's going to happen when we go ahead and stand on that data set and click Translate to fire that off? Well, our translation selection dialog box will appear. And we can use our control keys in order to select multiple data sets to put into this. So you may have multiple data set options. However, you need to make sure that you've selected the right translator for your input data set as well as desired output. And that's going to be underneath the service selection. So make sure you're selecting the right translator to use there. And then once we've selected our proper translator, we move on by simply selecting Finish, and we let our translation program do the rest. So from there, you're probably wondering, okay, what happened? What's going on? What's the status of my translation? So that's where we go into the administration console. And however, when we first open this up, it's going to actually appear empty. So what we need to do is make sure that we're selecting that magnifying glass on the top left to make sure that we're refreshing and loading all of our translations within the system. Now, it will go ahead and generate all of the translations in progress. You'll be looking for that complete state. If there's a terminal, there's a problem with the translation. If it may be within initiating or translating, meaning that it's still in progress. If it happens to still be within initiating or translating, or even if you have restarted the translation that may have originally been terminal, in order to refresh that progress and understand that state, you'll just go ahead and select those refresh button right there next to the magnifying glass in order to update the status of that translation. So how would we go about doing this from the context of a workflow? Well, when we initiate a workflow that carries out a translation, the translation occurs in the background automatically as the tasks are started and finished. So the generated files are attached to targets as necessary, and if we want to configure it too, they can receive the same status updates, things of that nature. Our demonstration isn't going to go that deep, but at least we'll see the translations being carried out. If you're curious about the status of your translation once you've kicked it off throughout the workflow, or you want to see if it's initiated, you can go right back to your administration console. But notice, in order to access your administrator console, you have to be within Rich Client. However, you don't need to be within the Rich Client to initiate or participate within workflows. So you can do this from Active Workspace. You can do this from your integrated platforms. This can be initiated and kicked off from all ends where workflow participation exists. So you don't necessarily need to run your translations from your Rich Client. You do have the capabilities outside of that. These days, looking at Active Workspace 5, the newer versions and the newer releases, Siemens has developed the feature and capability to also design our workflows within Active Workspace. So that's a great feature that we love to see further developed out. But let me tell you how great this is. My manager doesn't need to ask me to send over a file. I don't need to upload it into a shared drive after I've gone through any of my third-party translation processes. I don't need to ask my teammates to release a CAD license and try to get in there at the right time to run my translation and switch over data set formats. And I most especially do not need to run over to somebody's desk to access software, access information, because I know sometimes that's just easier for folks. Personally, for me, seeing how the majority of my team is throughout California, Texas, and other parts of the U.S., it makes working from Denver a whole lot easier, especially in the age of dealing with social distancing. So we're able to share these pieces of information fairly automatically and within the necessary data sets that are warranted for our teammates, which is extremely useful. So let's talk about the steps of enabling the workflow translation. Well, first off, we need to make sure that our manual translation has been properly configured and set up. So in order to configure our translators, we utilize the Teamcenter Environment Manager, often referred to as the TEM. And we enable the translators as well as the configuration on the client side that way through our administrative accesses. Then we go ahead and test our translation options within the Rich Client menu. And upon that successful translation or setup of the manual translation, we then go ahead and utilize handlers within our workflow task, set up through, again, our workflow designer in order to automate those translations. So we'll actually give you guys some reference material to it a little bit later, but Siemens has some really great documentation within the workflow designer and that discuss the many options of arguments and values accepted within the handlers in order to make sure that your translations are executed as warranted. So finally, we'll go ahead and test that workflow and then just make sure that everything is firing off and translating appropriately, and we'll make sure that it is available to the rest of our business. So let's actually get into a live demonstration of our translation. I will first show you a very quick manual translation, and then we will go ahead and see one of our workflows being kicked off. Alrighty. So here we are within the Rich client. And what I want to do is run a manual translation on my NX dataset. You see, I have this UG part here, and I can see that there is actually a drawing attached to it. However, I don't have any capabilities of looking at it. So I'm going to fire up my JT previews or try to look at this through my viewer, and really I'm just getting some basic information without actually being able to view my data set. So what I'm going to do is make sure that I am standing on my UG part here. And we will go ahead and select our translation. Looks like might be thinking a little hard on me. Might have to let that one just reset itself. Okay, there we go. So we'll go ahead and jump to our translation. And as mentioned, we will go ahead and select translate. And I'm going to do this twice because I want to not only be able to see that drawing in a PDF format, but I would also like to see my JT lightweight part so that I can view and manipulate my part within Teamcenter as we discussed before. So first things first, I'll go ahead and make sure that I've got my the proper service that I want. And this translator, the NX to CGM Direct, has been configured in order to allow my drawings to be translated into PDF files. So I'm going to just go ahead, make sure it's selected, and click Finish. And Teamcenter is going to take care of the rest. Now, before I show you the result, let's go ahead and pick off another translation just so that we can also see our JT file. So I'm going to go ahead and use that NX to PV direct, and again, select finish. Now, generally, what we would do is just refresh this window to see it pop up. But I'd like to say that this wasn't necessarily just sitting on my home folder, and I want to see that status of the translation. What happened then? So I'll go ahead into my administrator console, and we can see, well, there's nothing. Looks like nothing actually happened. However, we'll just go ahead and click refresh or select Shift F5, and it will load our translation request. And we see currently it is translating. Now, what I'll do here is select our files, and I'll give it a refresh. We can still see that they're within the translation selection, so we'll let that kick off and go for a little bit. Basically, what this will run through from the back end is our dispatcher client, and we will see that those translations kick off. Users, you probably won't be worried about these or looking at them very often, but that's just from the administration side. Well, let's go ahead and just take another quick peek at that just to see. Oh, well, look at that. Just quickly, we've got both our PDF and JT file correctly translated. So I'll close that out and just give this a little refresh. Teamcenter is already jumping the gun and showing us that it has been updated. So I will refresh that. And we can see we've got our PDF as well as, again, our lightweight JT file, this 3D model here for me to manipulate and query right here within Teamcenter, directly correlated to my NX part. And additionally, what I have here is my PDF of the drawing sitting there within NX. So just that easily, just that quickly, I was able to run that translation. Now let's go ahead and take a peek at our workflow translation. And as I mentioned before, we don't necessarily need to be in Teamcenter or in Teamcenter Rich Client in order to kick these automated translations off. So what I'll do is go ahead and jump into an example part here. I will open this one that we have. Go to its history so that we can get one that has not been released. So we're going to open up this revision B here. And we can see that, again, it's just the UG part, just the NX part. But I want that to be translated. And I'm actually going to put this into our production release workflow that is available to me and my business. Now, this workflow is only going to have a single reviewer, and that's going to be myself. So this could go to other checkers within the system. However, we're just going to go ahead and complete this on our own for the purpose of our demonstration. And we can see that this is now within we have our workflow tab up here. We don't have a 3D tab, but that ought to pop up for us here shortly. So within this workflow, we can see that we've got our translation task just a little bit further down the line. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and complete this and perform our sign-off. Just approve it. And once that's been approved, we can tell that our workflow has been completed. And I'm going to jump back to our translated item. And we can see it's been released. In our overview, doesn't look like anything's necessarily populated just yet. Same with our attachments. However, let's take a peek at our translation administrator console, because, the system's got to process a little bit. So we can see that this is still within the initial phase. However, it's going to run its course, do its thing. We can see that our dispatcher client is doing its work here if I was an administrator and needing to take a peek at this. But we can see how easily and how quickly it is to not only run our manual translations, but also our automatic translations. So let me just go ahead and refresh this. We can see those are complete. Let's just wrap up really quickly and refresh here. We can see now both our PDF as well as our lightweight file exist, in addition to our 3D lightweight model right here within our browser, accessible by Chrome. Let that load up a little bit. And we'll have the capabilities of measuring, taking section views and things of that nature right here within my internet browser. So just that easily, I'm able to generate and share this information simply because it is now being housed within Teamcenter, within my database. And the rest of my organization and team will be able to access this and share it as warranted by my business practices. So just some notable takeaways. Translators are going to allow you to render data in different formats at the click of a button. We're going to be able to create visualization files such as JTs that can be rendered for authors and consumers to interact with without the need of CAD software. This is going to save on client software time and cost when it comes to deployment times, as well as the funds needed to deploy those softwares. Additionally, this can be used to not only translate our CAD softwares, but in MS documents, so we can get our documents into PDFs, Excels into PDF files and things of that nature. And overall, we're really going to be saving time utilizing our automated workflow actions, allowing individuals to visualize and share this data across the platform. So I'm curious, how are your businesses utilizing your translators? How are the translators working for you? Have you implemented the necessary translators, and have you implemented those on workflows to be automated? Please feel free to contact Saratech in order to assist with the setup of these translators, as well as your workflows or any questions that you may have in order to get your business up and running and situated successfully. Now, additionally, as mentioned, here are some guides to our links to the workflow designers. Sarah's going to go ahead and throw those in the chat for us. But other than that, please feel free to click through those, look at these, and utilize them as reference. But again, Saratech is here for you. But other than that, I would like to see if there are currently any questions coming from the group.
So the first one is, what are common workflow to place translations on? What are common workflows to place translations on?
Okay, awesome. That's a really great question because honestly, release workflows are where we see a lot of them, where the final updated information can be viewed or exported from the platform. Once that information's been finalized, individuals would like to pop in there, see what's going on, and they can do that right there from their Chrome browser. Additionally, review workflows, so that we're making sure that our checkers have the necessary data to review and be able to mark up and things of that nature. So having those data sets translated into something usable is kind of right up their alley.
Great. The next question is, other than CAD to JT or PDFs, what are some other common workflow translations?
Okay, yeah. So as mentioned, we can utilize the translators between Word and Excel documents to PDF, so that we're sharing and reviewing the right markups and things of that nature. Additionally, we can translate out PNG and JPEG images, which are really helpful for some folks that like to mark up those image types. And additionally, some of our CAD files have the ability to automatically be translated into our IGES files, STLs, step files, DXF, and things of that nature, so that we have shareable files between our CAD systems, which makes things very useful as well.
Great. Looks like we have another question. It says, can you use this feature to do a spell check feature?
A spell check feature. I have not necessarily seen a spell check utilized. I suppose what you could do in some case is, if you're utilizing Microsoft Office or Microsoft Word, you can integrate that into Teamcenter so that you're using that data set and document with your spell check features right there within Word and right there connected to your Teamcenter database. So if you need help configuring that, please feel free to reach out and we'll make sure that you're set up properly. Perfect.
Well, it looks like that's all the questions we have for today. So if you are ready to take to the next level, Saratech offers much more than software. We have a wide variety of options for training, services, and 3D printers. So if you have any questions about that or any questions about today's session, you can go ahead and email us at marketing@saratech.com and we'd be happy to help you with anything. Thank you, Dion, for your time, and thank you everyone so much for attending. Have a great day.
Thanks for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw, make sure to like and subscribe down below so you don't miss out on any new videos. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter for the latest engineering news and information. And to see all of our upcoming events, please visit our website at saratech.com/events.